Hey everyone, Schwab here to share my new favorite book, The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollack. If you haven't seen my first video, full disclosure, I am not paid by any publishing company, editor, writer, etc. to review books. I am just here to share my love of reading with everyone, and I want everyone to take an interest and hopefully inspire others to read really cool books, such as this one, The Devil All the Time. The reason I picked up this book, same reason as what I mentioned in my first video, is that I read an article recently about books that are being made into movies, and The Devil All the Time was listed as one of those books that are being made into a movie. I believe it's being filmed right now. It's supposed to come out sometime in 2020, and it's going to be a Netflix movie, so I'm not really sure the release date on that, but it's something to look forward to if you're a big Netflix person. Some character or some actors that you'd be interested in possibly seeing on the screen. There's Sebastian Stan, who is best known for being the Winter Soldier in the MCU. There's Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man in the MCU. We have Robert Pattinson, who is best known for being a vampire heartthrob, and then there's Bill Skarsgård, who has made everybody terrified of clowns. So it's a really stellar and talented cast, and so it's really interesting to have all of those people come together for this work. So I really was excited about it. And obviously, if they're all into it, then obviously the source material, which is this, has to be pretty good. So to get into the story, The Devil All the Time takes place in the late 1940s and the early 1960s. The home base of everything takes place in this small town in Ohio, but there are some scenes that take place in West Virginia, and then there are also some scenes that take place all over the country. It just depends on what character you're following and their storyline. So it follows them from the late 1940s all the way to the 1960s. So there's a big progression of time and space in which they're moving around. But the central focus is this Ohio small town where it's very evident that the devil is present, because they are all really morally corrupt people. For example, the story starts off with a small family which consists of a husband, a wife, and a son. The wife is very, very sick, and so the husband takes up this opportunity to he becomes very religious, and he wants to make her better. And so the way he expresses that is by finding religion through a prayer log, which he has out in his woods, and he makes blood sacrifices to it, killing pretty much any small animal or big animal that he can find in hopes that it will convince God to make her better. And he has his son participate in this ritual, and he tells him that this is the only way that his mother will survive. The father also bestows on him the knowledge that you have to you have to stand up for yourself, and you have to act accordingly. The very beginning of the novel, it talks about how there were two hunters, and they see the wife/mother, and they think that she's very attractive, and they say some really scummy comments. And so instead of acting on it right away, the husband waits a few hours and kind of corners them and beats the crap out of them. So this instills in his son what is expected of a man and what you should do to defend your honor and things like that. So the son grows up with that, and he has that sense of, this is what I do if I want things to go well. Besides those two, that family, there's also a young couple that are like really demented serial killers. They make plans on how they're going to find them, and they take up hitchhikers, and they do all kinds of horrible stuff. But it's just very interesting, that perspective of it. Besides them, there are corrupt preachers that kind of prey on the vulnerable, and these young people trust them, and they take them into situations where they aren't so trusting. And then the person that's supposed to guide everyone in the community would be the sheriff, but he is morally bankrupt. He has no moral compass. He, he's taking bribes. He's trying to make money off the side, doing whatever he can. He's involved with various people that he shouldn't be. And with all of them, they towards the end, everything intertwines with each other, and all their story arcs really come together, and it creates this really fascinating climax that makes everything so interesting, and it's very satisfying with what the characters go through. As I stated earlier, this is my new favorite book. I have nothing but good things to say about it. It is really gritty, it's really raw, and the characters in the novel are they're not great people. They are really horrible human beings, and most people would be like, oh, if they're horrible human beings, why should I read this book? But it's just interesting, their whole story arc and how they get to the place that they're at. And it's also interesting too, because I found myself reading the book and I was like kind of rooting for them, and I really wanted them to be successful and do everything that they needed to do. The character I was most drawn to was probably Arvin, who is the son that I mentioned earlier. He's the only character that I feel like is redeemable. He does a lot of horrible things. I'm not gonna say like, oh, he's great, but there's reasoning behind his actions, and that reasoning is something that we can all relate to. He has vengeance, which again isn't good, but he isn't harming people to harm people. He has a reason behind his method, and whereas other characters are just doing horrible things to do horrible things. And we can all relate to that feeling. Like, if you're really mad at somebody, you're gonna try and harm them in some way, shape, or form, whether that be their reputation or whatever. And there are also times in the novel where he seems remorseful for his actions. He genuinely feels bad. And whereas the other characters are like, yeah, whatever, I just, hurt this person. But, it makes him more human. And most of the other characters just kind of seem like the devil, or they are demon-like. So that was the character that I really was most interested in. All the characters are interesting, but he was the one I was really interested in. Based off of things that I've already said, obviously there's a great deal of violence, but the violence kind of serves a purpose. It's not that, sometimes we watch movies and there's just like this random fight scene, and you're just like, why are we doing this? This violence kind of shows the extremeness of the characters and how, and their righteousness. All the characters believe that the actions that they're taking throughout the novel are the right actions, and reality, we know that they aren't. The characters often align their actions with religion or faith. As example, the father at the beginning, he was doing this because this will make my wife feel better. I believe this is my faith. And those actions make things seem like seem honorable to them, when in reality it's probably not. They see themselves doing God's work, and that makes their thoughts more dangerous, I feel like, because they are aligning it with the one and only, the goodest of the good guys, and it's also bad because they're doing all these things and they have no remorse for it. They're embodying the devil, and that reads like it's really interesting and compelling, the tale, because it's about sinful actions and the consequences of those actions. So that's why it's really interesting to me. That's why I think you should read it. That's all I have for today. But if you liked what you watch, please be kind and hit subscribe down below. You can find this book on Amazon, library, bookstore. If there are any books that you think I should read, leave a comment. You can also follow me on Twitter and on Goodreads to see what I'm reading next, and any updates on any future videos. Other than that, keep on reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye!